It's my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker and one of today's workshop mentors, Kevin Mitchell, aka Bob Evans. Bob Evans, the ARIA Award-winning alter ego of Jebediah frontman Kevin Mitchell. Oh my goodness, look what I've done, everybody. I'm out of sync. Here we go. He's been a mainstay of the Australian music scene for over 2 decades. Under the Bob Evans moniker, Mitchell has released 6 studio albums, blending gentle acoustic melodies with classic folk storytelling. His acclaimed album, Suburban Songbook, won the 2006 ARIA Award for Best Adult Contemporary Album, with later releases earning further nominations. He's a regular on Triple J and Double J and hosts the popular podcast Good Evans, It's a Bobcast, featuring guests from music, sport and culture, and it's probably the best podcast name I've ever heard. I also know that Kevin has written for other artists. He's toured nationally and internationally and is widely respected for his generosity as a mentor and collaborator. Speaking with Kevin today is Bridie Tanner. Bridie Tanner is the voice of breakfast on ABC North Coast. She grew up in South Grafton, New South Wales, and has hosted on Triple J, including national slots on Home and Hose, The Hottest 100 Tally Room, and Summer Breakfast. After returning to her home region, she feels privileged to broadcast daily to the Northern Rivers. On weekends, she can often be found soaking up the thriving live music scene, supporting both touring and local artists in some of the region's most iconic venues. Bridie, we're so happy you could join us here today. Okay, everyone, please help me in welcoming Kevin and Bridie to the stage.
Thank you so much, Al. Thanks to everyone for coming. Shout out to the bird as well for coming. Do we have any bands here who are in high school or fresh out of high school? Yeah, hey. Kev, can you tell us about your first year out of high school and where it all kicked off for you and Jebediah?
Yeah, hi everyone. I suppose, high school was kind of where it started for me. It's where I started to learn to play an instrument through music classes at school. And it's also where I met all the members of Jebediah. But we didn't form the band officially till I'd just finished school, a couple of months after finishing high school. But yeah, we were theatre geeks, doing all the musicals and stuff. So yeah, I think it was kind of like by the time we formed the band, and we used to go to like all ages shows all the time together and go and see bands, and we're developing that sort of dream of like, watching bands and just thinking, I'd love to be doing that, love to be just loved that world of live music. But because we've been friends for so many years at high school and we've been doing these musical productions every year and all that kind of stuff, by the time we kind of started the band and started playing gigs, we built up a little bit of experience, both like in terms of just our chemistry together and also just knowing, like not being afraid of being on stage. So yeah, high school was very, now that it's not something that I think about a lot, but now that I'm talking about it, I'm reminded just how incredibly important those few years were. And it's funny, I've got teenage kids who are in high school now myself, and it's funny when I reflect back and think those years, they're not really very long. You're not really in high school for very long. It feels like forever, and it's such a formative time of your life. But it's only like 5 years or something. So so a lot happened there that sort of set me on the path, I suppose.
How did you get your first gig?
Well, the first gig that Jebediah, well, actually, we weren't even a band at the time. So I got a call from a guy from the high school that I just graduated from a few months earlier. So this is like February 1995. And the organising committee for the Year 12 ball had said they wanted us to play at their ball. Now, they'd seen us, myself and Chris in Jebediah and a couple of other classmates, not from Jebediah, we weren't a band, but we'd got together and we played a cover of we did a Smashing Pumpkins song called Today at our Year 12 assembly. And, you know, we nailed it, right? the crowd went wild. But obviously we'd made some kind of impression because, you know, so then the Year 12s that year, the following year, wanted us to play at their ball. Now, we weren't even a band. I didn't have a band. So I pretty much, I lied. I lied to Mr. Lansdell and said, oh, yeah, sure, you know, we've got a band. Because he was kind of trying to gauge, like, what experience we had. And I told him that we were playing gigs. I just lied my ass off. Gave him the impression that, yeah, we were a proper band, we did gigs all the time, and, you know, and he could trust us with the gig. And so we got this gig, and so then I called Chris, hey, we've got a gig, we need a band. and then we got Vanessa on bass, and then our original drummer didn't turn up for a few rehearsals, so, and that's how my older brother got the job. And so Jebediah was born based on that. And by the time we did that gig, because obviously we played covers, although by the time we played the gig, we had like maybe 3 or 4 original songs. We did play a couple of them at the ball. But yeah, by the time we'd finished that gig, we were starting to get more excited about writing our own music, and we really wanted to, you know, we were hungry to do more gigs, and we're just, you know, loving just getting in a room together and making noise. You know, it was just the best fun. It was so we were really kind of hungry from that point on to just play as much as we could.
It's a bit of a yes man. You know that movie Yes Man with Jim Carrey? Origin story where he just says yes to everything and sees what happens. Yeah,
look, I love that philosophy. You know, something that I reflect on a bit now, you know, as I make my way through middle age, is just how important it is to just be guided by your enthusiasm and your love for things, and not be too afraid of or, you know, not let your insecurities about your technical ability kind of speak too loudly. You know, because I just think about all the incredible, even to this day, all the amazing opportunities that have sort of come my way that I've been able to enjoy and take advantage of. And, you know, a lot of times it's things that are like, you know, an opportunity to be in a show that goes overseas. You know, I went to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival last year, which is something that I never wasn't even part of my thinking even just a few years ago, as part of this show called the 27 Club, where it's basically like it's kind of like a tribute show. I mean, it's a good one, but and so, you know, these incredible life opportunities come along, and they've come about from, I guess, my ability to just throw myself into things, even if I figure like if I really love something and I'm really enthusiastic about it, then I'll figure out everything else, you know, that I need to figure out along the way. And you know, I guess you got to be able to be able to take a risk to fail.
Yeah, but sometimes nerves creep in, or a bit of self-doubt can creep in, even for the most successful musicians in the world, this idea of like imposter syndrome.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's really common, you know, and I think that it doesn't matter how long you've been doing it or how successful you are, you know, everybody experiences that. I know, like, talking to Paul Kelly when I was touring with him a few years ago. Now, Paul Kelly's 70 years old now, probably, you know, as successful a musical artist in Australia as you can get, just about. You know, he's had such a long career, he's so well respected, he's successful and all that. And he still has those moments, you know, and talks about them. Some of my favourite artists, you know, international artists, like someone like Damon Albarn from Blur and the Gorillaz, you know, they played Coachella a couple of years ago. Blur played Coachella and they were playing one of their big hits, but the audience was quite young and didn't really know. He was sort of going to get them to sort of sing along the chorus, and there was not much of a response. People didn't really know the song, right? And he was just, and I was watching this video footage, this guy, you know, only a few years older than me, but, you know, someone who I look at who's just, I mean, he's sold millions of records all around the world. He made so many records, he's got respect, you know, from critical acclaim. He's got, basically, he's somebody that he's made it, you know, he's an international success story. And someone that I look at and just go, oh my God, you know, what I would give to have that. And for a moment on stage, when he realizes that no one's singing it back, and you see him kind of just get really disappointed, and all of a sudden he was just, you know, he was just a middle-aged guy in a badly fitting suit on stage at Coachella, just bombing, you know. And even though that was clearly a really bad moment for him, and I did feel sorry, I felt sympathy for him, I also got a lot out of it myself. It made me realise that, even somebody that you perceive has got everything that you could ever want, even those people still are going to have those moments where they're suddenly what am I doing here? You know, and I think it's really valuable to remember that, because no matter what stage you're at, you know, whether you're just starting out or whether you've been doing it for 10 years or 30 years, or whether you're someone that plays at the local public bar, the pub, or if you're in a band that tours and gets played on the radio, it doesn't matter where you exist on that spectrum. You're going to have, there's going to be moments when you feel like an imposter, and it's totally fine. It's totally normal. Everybody feels that way. So I think, once you kind of wrestle with that and accept that and realise that, you can kind of stop letting it interfere with your decision making, I think.
That might be why I love watching news fails compilations
on
YouTube.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, I mean, we all... there is something. There is value to be gained from it, I think.
When did you realise that Jebediah had made it?
Well, I mean, what's making it? I was thinking about this on the way here, you know, because, you know, from a songwriting point of view, you know, it's just a constant process, isn't it? You know, because making it is like just writing a song. And when you've made it, then you start all over again, and that just keeps going over and over. So, so in terms of making it, you know, I guess there are things that happen that sort of have the appearance of legitimacy, I suppose, like, you know, like signing to a record company, for example, you know, or being played on the radio, or you know, being able to quit your day job or whatever. I mean, those are kind of these sort of, they're kind of these things that they have an air of legitimacy about them that other people, like your parents or your friends, go, oh, so it's a real thing you're doing.
Because they can brag to their friends.
Because it's a very confusing. Being an artist is for your family and friends who aren't artists. You'll spend your whole life trying to justify or explain what you do, because they don't, you know, they'll never understand. But when these sort of real life things happen that they understand, like television, radio, record company, you know, company things, then it's like, oh, I know what that is. I understand that. Oh, so it must be a real thing. So, but like that. But making it shouldn't be just achieving things that just for other people to make sense of, you know. So yeah, I mean, I suppose you've got to think about making it in more of a, I don't know, immaterial kind of philosophical kind of way. I think I have just reached a point, I suppose, in my life now where I'm just, every day that I get to do stuff like this, basically, you know, if I'm not making music, talk about music, I'm just so incredibly grateful for every day that I get to do that. And it doesn't matter whether it's to an audience of 5 or 5,000, or it doesn't matter if I'm getting paid lots of money or if I'm doing it for free. Just through the ability to be able to spend my time, devote the time that I have in this life to doing something that I love, is, I think you can't. That's, to me, that's making it. That's got to be some level of success. And it's, you know, and I think that's something that is relatively achievable for a lot of people, you know, if you know, depending on how you frame success, you know. If you frame success purely as like, I want to be rich, it's going to be tough.
Hate to break it to you.
Yeah, you know, only a very small number of people are going to achieve that. So yeah, I don't know. Making it is really about how you frame it, I suppose.
What has been the steepest learning curve for you, especially thinking back on those early days of making music and performing gigs?
Steepest learning curve. Yeah. I mean, something. I guess one of the first things that comes to mind is when I was younger, and again, you know, driven by my enthusiasm and how much I loved it and how much fun it was, and going on tour with my best mates, and I learned the hard way that you probably need to look after yourself a little bit. You know, I think back to, like you know, being on the road, being in that environment of being in a live band on the road, you know, alcohol is like so prevalent, you know. They give it to you for free when you turn up to every gig. It's like, you know, when you spend the hours of the day waiting around to play, you know, you give it, here you go, guys, here's a big case of beer to drink. And so I think that was a steep learning curve of realising, like, oh yeah, you don't have, like, you can see why there's so much danger in that life for a lot of people, you know, with addiction and stuff like that, because it's just so prevalent. So, yeah, I mean, it's taken me a while to learn to really look after myself. And I guess as you get older, I suppose too, you realise, like, well, if I want to keep doing this forever, until, you know, as long as I've got anyway, I've got to look after myself. So yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of one of the main things that comes to mind. I mean, on a more practical, you know, well, also another practical level, something that I wasn't really kind of that, I wasn't thinking about that much when I first started out, was the business side of things. You know, again, driven by enthusiasm, you're not always thinking about the business side of stuff. And also when we weren't necessarily expecting to, we didn't expect to have the success that came our way, and it came relatively quickly. So we weren't thinking about business stuff. And so, you know, looking back, I would have, if I could go back, I would pay more attention to just how things worked. You know, like how you know, CDs don't matter anymore. No one buys records anymore. But back in the day when they did, like what's the profit split with things, you know, and like how do record company advances work, and just understanding like the mechanisms of the business a little bit more. I mean, it's kind of boring. It
probably didn't feel like the most exciting thing at the time to get into the nitty-gritty of the contract.
No, it is really boring stuff, especially when you're, you know, a teenager. but I think, it's important. Knowledge, what do they say? Knowledge is power. Knowing about that stuff is only going to help.
We kind of touched on it just then, which is the changing nature of the music industry. And there's a lot of ways this could go, like social media is one whole way we could go, but also gigging and the appetite audiences have for gigs at the moment. And maybe it's hard to say, maybe there was a little dip in COVID, or there's like a younger generation who aren't going out to pubs to see live music. Who knows what it is, but as a performing musician, what have you observed and how can you make it play to your favour?
Well, I mean, it's, for me, because of my age and the age of my audience, the people that come to see that come out to our shows are older and probably have a bit more financial security. I think like part of the problem for, getting young people to gigs might be a financial thing, like people just don't, the cost of living is, I think, a real issue that affects that. I think, COVID definitely looks like it took a massive chunk out of the industry, and it hasn't, the live music industry hasn't really bounced back from that yet. People are spending more time online. They're spending more, they're being entertained more online, and so but that could just make the live experience even more of a special kind of thing that people seek out. Kind of remains to be seen. But I mean, I guess where I'm at personally with the sort of demographics or whatever that follow Jebediah, I mean, we're sort of coming to the age where a lot of our audience are starting to come back to gigs again, because the kids are getting older and they're starting to like reclaim their lives again and coming out to shows and buying merch, and so it's it's an interesting kind of to be part of that progression and not really expecting what was to come next. But I think like AI too. I mean, that's going to be. I mean, I guess not so much on the live front, but just speaking about new technologies, and I mean, I think AI is going to be massive. I mean, we already have seeing how much artificially intelligent music is being created, and I think that's going to influence things a lot. I mean, at the moment, I feel like I can still tell if I hear something, I can tell whether it's been made by AI or not. But not everybody can, and I think we might soon enter a time where nobody will be able to tell the difference, which is pretty crazy.
What do you guys think about music made by, or AI in music? Do you think AI sucks? Just hands up if you think it sucks. I have a friend in Brisbane who claims to have made the only good AI song, and it is pretty good.
Yeah.
I also know someone who's like, this is great. You know when you wake up with a bit of an idea for a song and you can just roll over and like just kind of hum it into your phone now, and then you've got your full backing and then you can go back to sleep. I mean, that's kind of handy, but where do you stand on it?
Yeah, and I mean,
I think I can hear it as well. I think it sounds bad.
Yeah,
at the moment.
You can just kind of tell. My daughter played me something. I'm not going to reveal what it is. I don't. But as soon as she
that she'd made.
No,
that she'd found.
She was like, there was a song that was her and a friend that was being passed around at school. It wasn't supposed to be funny, but it was really funny. And I immediately was like, that sounds like AI. She didn't know. She didn't know that it was. She couldn't tell. So I mean, like I use AI for stuff. I mean, I guess kind of like to search for like an information, like Google, use it like Google. And it can be handy from a songwriting perspective. It can be handy, like I've used it for things like the same way that I used to use Rhyme Zone, you know, the website Rhyme Zone, like, you know,
Just
when you just
me.
need rhyming words,
Oh.
you know, to find rhyming words. Or,
Yeah.
And before that, you know, I used to have a thesaurus and a paperback thesaurus to find words. So now AI can kind of perform that, you know, really fast and really effectively. So like all technology, it has its uses for sure. It's not all bad. But I don't know, like humans just have a way of screwing everything up and like making this stuff and using it for like, you know, the worst possible things. So
I want to talk about merch because it just came up before, and I was thinking about how you can't really make heaps of money from Spotify with your music. We don't really buy CDs anymore. You might be starting out, you might be getting $500 for a gig or something like that. Merch is a great way to bump that number up a little bit. Also, I feel like everyone I know who goes to a gig wants to buy a token of that gig, and
yeah, it's like a souvenir.
And it's just a cool addition to your life.
People still buy CDs. I still sell CDs at shows, and people buy them, and I wonder, like, do they even own a CD player? I don't own a CD player anymore.
This is why I refuse to buy a new car.
Yeah. But they buy CDs, and you'll sign up for them, and I think it's just they buy it just as a souvenir. Vinyl is really popular
Huge.
again.
Cassettes.
Cassettes, yeah, started to come back. We just made cassettes for the first time in like 30 years, just recently. And yeah, like there have been times on tour where the merch has made the difference between losing money and making money from a gig. So yeah, I mean it's super important.
Have you seen any cool merch ideas? Like a stubby coolers one.
Have you got any for me?
Has anyone seen anything a bit different?
Condoms? Really?
Which band?
Only an extra large.
You're grabbing a few of those for later.
I've never. I mean, what have we done? We've done. I mean, look, tea towels and stubby holders. We've done. Again, probably showing our age. I know, like people that have done snow globes. I know that's pretty cool, but that just seems like danger. It's fraught with danger in transport. You know.
Think of the logistics.
I can just imagine opening a box of just all these smashed snow globes that you can't sell, like, you know, and all that weird.
And the magic of the snow just kind of like pooling in the floor of the car.
Yeah, that doesn't. Yeah, it sounds problematic.
Right, that's a no to snow globes.
Yeah, look, they do look cool, but yeah, I'd be concerned.
Yeah. So, just coming back to gigging and sustainable gigging, just a few different ideas that I've seen around. Sam Buckingham, who's here today doing a workshop, talked a little bit about sustainable gigging and not kind of back-to-backing and, you know, going Thursday, Friday, Saturday night and then doing that again and again and again for however many months, but to spread it out a little bit. Bobby Alou recently did a run of shows around Australia where they just did cafe breakfast time. And yeah, what's your approach to booking a tour, and what advice would you have for emerging artists when it comes to booking a tour?
Well, I mean, you know, booking tours can be pretty stressful financially. You know, you're taking because of the risk that you're taking. I mean, I still tour in a fairly traditional way. Where, you know, we'll, depending on what the tour is in support of, if it's in support of a new record, then, yeah, you know, we'll try and fill up as much space in the calendar as possible. That's just the way that I've always existed in this industry. I think for young, up-and-coming artists, I think we live in a time now where you can really do whatever you want, in a way. I mean, so many of the old rules are kind of irrelevant now. I mean, I know people who have gone out, you know, and just gone out on tour and taken, like, played on the back of a, you know, just had like this stage on the back of a truck and has, you know, got council approval at, you know, beaches and parks and stuff like that, and just set up and played. I think that you have to be, you have to be really sort of open-minded and be up for trying anything, because I think that we live in a time where there really is, really are not really that many constraints, you know, to what you can do. But yeah, I mean, I still exist, I guess, on a model that is, you know, a few decades old. Just big, you know, probably out of habit.
Some things would remain the same, though. Say if you wanted to get on, Groove in the Moo's just been announced for Lismore, which is huge. Or there's maybe a smaller local event happening. You think I should be playing that. What would you do?
Well, I'd contact my manager. If you don't have a manager, look, I think there's still a lot of value, and I wonder sometimes with the amount of time that people now spend online, how much this happens to like communities and stuff. I guess communities still form online, but I still think that there's still a lot to be said for just putting yourself out there. I mean, doing stuff like this is a perfect example. Just putting yourself into situations where you're going to meet people. I think that if you know, so one of the questions, and this isn't the question you asked, but a question that you get a lot from people is like, well, how do you get a gig? You know, because for a lot of young people starting out, they just literally they don't know, and I think that if you're having trouble getting a gig, I think you just need to go to gigs as much as possible, meet other, you know, through supporting other bands or whatever, then you can start to form communities with those other artists, and you can put on gigs yourself. Now, if you can't get a gig in a pub, then hire a hall, you know, a community centre, or some kind of space. Put on a gig with the bands and the friends that you've spent the last however amount of time, you know, hanging out with, connecting, supporting each other, and create a scene, you know, create a scene that people want to be a part of, and build it yourself. And I mean, I really think that is the most practical way of getting anywhere from a sort of live point of view. Now, I mean, getting your music to places now, obviously that world has changed a lot. Now, I guess your music can be streamed all around the world with a few clicks of a button or whatever. And that's changed a lot in my time. But the live music thing, I don't think it's really changed that much. You know, I think some of the still, like, the basic kind of ideas about it are still kind of the same. And one thing too that I will say that hasn't changed, you know, in 30 years is, even though, you know, we live in this world where, I mean, people don't buy records, CDs anymore, and everything's online, but if you go to a rehearsal room on like a Thursday night, they sound exactly the same as they did 30 years ago. There'll be like a heavy metal band coming out of one room. There'll be like a sort of wedding cover band. There'll be like just a solo drummer who's like booked out a room because it's the only place he can go to make the noise because people that he lives with can't tolerate it. And yeah, you just when you enter, you know, those rehearsal room complexes, and you've got all those rooms with the closed doors and the sound emanating, and that mixture of all these different things, it's exactly the same. It has not changed in 30 years, which I find remarkable considering how everything else has changed so much. And so many people now, you know, are making music, you know, music software. Kids are so all over music software and stuff. You know, they learn it so early, and so much music is being made in people's bedrooms and now going out to the world, and you know, that's been a massive change. But yeah, those rehearsal rooms, they still sound the same.
How important are the people around you as a musician? Your partners, your parents, your family members, your band members, your friends, and have those relationships been strained over time? And yeah, how important is it to keep them kind of strong if you're choosing to go down this creative path?
Well, yeah, I mean, definitely if you're in a band or, you know, forming a band, I mean, I do think I can only really speak to my own experience, and being in a band with my best mates from school and people that I was friends with for years before we even started the band meant that the band was kind of just a vehicle for us to hang out and have fun together, you know. And the glue that kind of has kept it together for such a long time, it's still the same 4 people after 30 years, has been that friendship. And, you know, what I have seen happen so many times throughout the years of bands who have come and gone, and, you know, they have this sort of ascent and success, and then inevitably that sort of plateaus out, right? It happens to everybody. It doesn't matter who you are. Nobody just keeps up on an upward trajectory. Eventually, no matter what level you are, your things will plateau, and then they might sort of dip, and then you might have another, you know, whatever. So many bands I've seen, when they reach that plateau, that's when they break up. As soon as they hit that plateau, they don't stick around long enough to do that, which, you know, happens. And I think the reason that happens is because the success that they experienced was the thing that was keeping them together. And when that success kind of started to plateau or go down, they didn't see a reason to continue without that. That was the glue. But yeah, being in a band with people who I love has meant that when we reached that sort of plateau moment or that decline moment, we were kind of like, well, yeah, I mean, I guess we could just stop, but like we still we still enjoy it. I mean, like we still like hanging out with each other. We still like playing gigs. So why should we stop? Let's just keep going. And so we did keep going, and I'm so glad that we did, because, as I mentioned before, you know, if we'd have stopped, we would have not experienced so many amazing, unexpected twists and turns that have happened in the years since. So yeah, I mean, if you can partner with people that you genuinely, if possible, genuinely love, spending time with, being in company with, then I do think that that's a really, you know, a really precious kind of thing that's going to keep you together and keep your perspective on why you're doing it in the first place. I mean, it's supposed to be fun, you know. Making music is supposed to be enjoyable. It just doesn't mean that you don't have to work really hard, and it doesn't mean that there are going to be times, like any job, that, you know, that kind of suck, or things that you'd rather not do but you have to do in order to get to the good bits. Of course, that's life. But creating and making music, it's supposed to be fun, you know. Just having people around you that can make it fun is really, really valuable.
What about making a music video? I still find a lot of new music watching Rage, or YouTube will just recommend something that looks cool and you click on it, you discover a new artist. I guess that's something that probably hasn't changed that much in 30 years, the importance of the music video.
Well, yeah, I mean, but I mean, they're important in a different way now, because it's like, it's all about that sort of viral moment, right? I mean, people, like, Yeah, I mean, people don't spend the amount of money that they used to spend on video clips, but you know, in a way, it's kind of, in some ways, it rewards creativity a little bit more now, because you don't need to spend a lot of money to make a great clip. You just need to have a really amazing, a great idea, and it can spread. You know, we've all seen how quickly these things can spread online, right? You know, if you have a viral moment, I've never experienced it myself, but you know, if you have a viral moment, it can spread all around the world. Millions of people will see it in a very, very short space of time. What's that?
Gangnam Style.
Yeah. So
I think the original viral moment.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, so video clips are kind of exist in that sort of space now. Whereas like obviously when we first started making them, it was like rage and video hits, and I guess overseas you had things like MTV.
Did you make clips in those days to promote the single, or just because it was the next step to?
Oh no, it was all part of a strategy around promoting the singles. But yeah, I mean, these days, we don't really. I mean, we still make video clips for songs, but they don't. Yeah, I mean, they don't carry the same. They don't really carry this. And it's different. It's changed. I mean, like, I'm not really necessarily in the kind of business of trying to chase a viral moment, you know. I'm sort of in a stage of my career where we're just sort of, you know, tending our little garden of fans that we've accumulated over a long period of time. And but yeah, I mean, if you're a younger artist starting out, you probably are looking to try and achieve that kind of viral moment. And but yeah, that's just another thing that I guess has changed quite a lot.
I'm sure it can be fun too, like just rocking up together and filming something and
I mean,
jumping around being silly.
Well, sure, there's a lot of that. But I mean, you know, if there's ever a moment that's going to make you feel like an imposter, it's, you know, like jumping around miming to your own song being played on a little boombox off camera somewhere. You know, it's patently ridiculous. It's a ridiculous thing to do. But yes, if you're doing it with people that you like, that your friends, then that's what makes it fun. Otherwise, it can just feel extremely silly. I mean, but yeah, I mean, when it comes to visual kind of clips and stuff, I mean, you know, again, like I said before, it is a great medium to be incredibly creative if you're that way inclined. I mean, I'm pretty kind of useless with video clips and stuff. I rarely have any good ideas to do with that sort of stuff. But I know a good idea when I see it, you know, from somebody else, and it can be a wonderful creative vehicle if you've got that visual kind of way of thinking.
When you go out and see a gig, whether it's on a small, medium, large stage, what makes it a great gig?
I think it's I like to see a band who's enjoying themselves. You know, like I find it strange if you're just watching a band act like they don't really want to be there. I don't understand that. I guess it's like to me that's not cool. Even though that might be the attitude that's trying to be projected. I'm not getting it. So yeah, to me, a great live performance, whether it's a band or any kind of performer or style of music, if the people on stage are having a really good time, I just think that's infectious. And I think that, like, when people come to a gig, like if you walk on stage and you are sort of projecting a feeling of that maybe you're not wanting to be there, or maybe you're a bit scared or whatever, you're not giving the audience permission to relax. I think if you come on stage and you really genuinely show that you want to be there, and you're projecting this this image of like, hey, we've got this. We're gonna have a great time. So all you guys need to do is just relax and enjoy yourselves, and I'll take care of it. I just think that makes a massive difference. You know, people are immediately at ease, and like, you know, when you watch someone perform who's like, I mean, look, obviously there are exceptions to all of this. Sometimes watching somebody who's very nervous on stage can be quite captivating. You know, there are always artists outside of the box who are just, you know, they have their very unique thing, and it just works. But for the most part, a band that projects an image of not wanting to be there kind of makes you not really want to be there, or a band that projects a vibe of insecurity or whatever makes you start getting worried for them or whatever. And so, yeah, I think, you know, a great show is just one where the band is just really fucking having a great time, you know, and makes you want to have a good time as well.
Do you ever think about banter in between songs and what you're going to say?
Yes. Oh, yeah. I mean, yes. It's one of those things. It's, you know, there have been so many times where I've just failed dismally in talking in between songs. It's a very hard thing to fake. I mean, I guess some people do kind of. I mean, I guess if you wanted to, you could just kind of say this, like, you know, a band like Kiss, for example. You know, I mean, that guy's hilarious with the stuff that he says in between. But it's all like, hey, everybody, rock and roll, you know.
Because they're Kiss, they can just say that and people will go crazy.
That's their shtick. But it's kind of a bit, you know, it feels a little bit superficial. You know, I do a lot of solo gigs where the talk, the conversation, the audience in between songs feels really like an important part of the show. Because when it's just you, when it's just one person on stage, you know, you've got literally nothing else to back you up. It's just your music and your personality is the whole show. So in that environment, I do feel an extra responsibility to you know, talk as much as possible in between songs with the crowd and connect as much. And but yeah, sometimes it can be hard. I mean, you know, when it's a good night, it's easy and it's great and everybody laughs at my jokes. But when it's a bad night, it's just terrible. Look, I suppose the only thing that kind of keeps people coming back to those kind of shows is, you know, there's an authenticity there, I suppose. So, you know, I think authenticity is a word that does get overused a lot these days. Maybe starting to lose its meaning a little bit, but so I hesitate to use it a little bit. Like the word journey, I hate using that word too. Sometimes it's hard to find another one, but I do think that that people, you know, the best way to connect with people on stage is to just be as authentic as possible, and if that means embarrassing yourself or making fun of you know, acknowledging something that you're not good at or whatever, then I think that's more, I don't know, I think that people kind of still respond well to that.
What music industry myth would you like to bust today for people who are coming into this industry now?
Oh, there's, you know, it's funny, the music, well, the entertainment industry broadly is kind of built on myth, right? I mean, it's kind of sells myth. That's what entertains people is, you know, is that sort of is putting on a show. And you know, I used to, when I first started going to see bands when I was a teenager and going to festivals like the Big Day Out and seeing big international bands or Australian bands like that have become just as big as the international bands, like with Powderfinger or Spiderbait or bands like that. You know, from the front of the stage when you're seeing on the big stage and all the lights and the smoke machines and the sound is, you know, perfect because the sound guys just, you know, the show has just really worked. And I used to look at those bands and those people like they were almost from another planet, you know, like I just thought that there was some kind of magic that they were tapping into that just wasn't accessible to the average person like myself. Or like, you know, if an artist was kind of, you know, dark and edgy and like had a dark background, like maybe drugs, or, you know, that they were existing in some kind of, you know, magical kind of place that I just couldn't, but it just wasn't me. I couldn't access that, right? But what I came to learn from playing more and more shows and starting to sort of go from being in the audience to being backstage and watching these same bands side of stage and all that, is you realise after a while that like they're just a bunch of people just like everybody else. You know, and they've got a great light show and they got smoke machines and they got a guy at the front making them sound great and maybe they can afford some nice clothes. But when they walk on and off stage, they're just a band. They're just a band. So, you know, and that idea of like the dark, tortured artist, you know, being able to. I mean, look, there may be something in that, but like the idea that you have to be tortured to create good art, I think that's a massive myth. You know, I think I almost think it's kind of like a cop out, a little bit like. So yeah, I mean, I suppose you know the thing that I've realised is that it's, you know, being an artist, and it's took me a long time to refer to myself as that because I used to feel like it was pretentious, but I think it's generally it's very accessible to anybody. It doesn't really matter where you come from or what your history is or how you look, or, you know, you can access that world. You know, even if you think that the people that you admire, you look up to, are, you know, some kind of divine, you know, sent from the gods, you know, and have access to some, you know,
magic source.
Yeah, they don't. They don't. They're just often those people are just really working really fucking hard. They've just spent a really long time playing their instrument and getting really good at it, or they just love what they're doing so much that, you know, they convinced you that they have access to some kind of magic. But no, they don't, and you know, anybody can access that.
We're coming to the end of this conversation. I wanted to give you an opportunity, if anyone has a question they'd like to ask Kev, or just something that maybe has resonated. Does anyone have a question? Yeah, go ahead.
Brave soul.
How would I get signed?
Signed?
Yeah, how do you go about doing that?
Yeah, so how do you go about getting signed?
Okay, well, I've been signed to major. I mean, really, there's only been 2 times, I guess. There have been other times where we've made a record. This is how it works more in recent times for my music is, you know, you make a record yourself and then you sign a deal with somebody to put it out, and it's just a one record deal just for that record. But back in, you know, the old days when we first signed a record deal, it was like an older model and a major label, and they would, you know, sign you, you know, be a worldwide deal that for 5 albums, you know, long, big lock-in contract that favours them, obviously, more than it does you as an artist. And that's happened to me twice. The first time was with Jebediah, and we were just playing gigs all the time. We played every venue, every place we possibly could, as often as we possibly could, and we started to build a live audience. People started coming back to our shows, and that got the attention of a local record company guy. This is in Perth in like 1996 or 5. And then they told somebody over in Sydney, and then, you know, they came over. So basically, we got the attention of a record company just from playing gigs. And then the second time it happened was for Bob Evans when I was as a solo artist, and that was based on demo. I'd recorded home demos that I sent to the guy who signed Jebediah back in the day, was now working at a different record company, but I'd maintained that friendship and that relationship with him, and I used to send him stuff that I was doing, and not to try and get signed, just to get his opinion and advice on stuff. And these particular demos that I sent, you know, he came back and was like, "Oh, I really like it. We should do something." And so I was signed. So I guess I'm using my own personal experience to answer this question. In my experience, it was playing shows and generating an audience that way, and the second was recording demos at home, working really, really hard on them, and utilising a relationship that I'd already had, that I'd sort of maintained and cultivated. How do you get signed now? And also, to the other question you're going to have to ask is, why do you want to get signed as well? Because I think, like, from what I can tell, emerging artists these days are getting signed because they having a viral moment, like we talked about before, on like TikTok or some other kind of platform, YouTube or whatever, or they're uploading this music that they've made onto, you know, a streaming service, and it's generating its own, it's generating something, it's an audience, and the record companies kind of come along. So basically, in that sense, it's still the same now as it was back then, about 30 years ago, in that record companies will want to sign you once you've demonstrated that you are already cultivating an audience. You're already, you know, there's something going on. And then that's what's going to get them interested. That hasn't really changed. It's more the environment that's changed in terms of where you get that interest. But yeah, I think it's really important to ask the question why you want to get signed. What is it that you're looking for? Because I think these days, more than ever, like major labels, they don't have but they've still got resources, but you don't really need a major label anymore, necessarily, to get your music out there and to be a successful artist. And major label record deals, as far as I know these days, are even more restrictive than they used to be, and more weighted towards the record company than the artist than they used to be. I hear now that they even take a percentage of your merch sales now, which, you know, they never used to. But so yeah, I think I guess I would just sort of, you know, say that, you know, getting signed to a record company isn't like the magic, you know, the magic wave of the wand that's going to necessarily, you know, set you up with a career. I don't think it ever has been, but these days, you know, less than ever. So I think you really got to know why you want a record company to sign you, and then and then be guided from that point. You know what I mean? Does that answer? Have I answered the question? Sorry, it's pretty long-winded.
It kind of speaks to the theme that's been re-emerging during this conversation, which is not getting stuck in that headspace of like, if I just had that, or if I could just be like that person, or maybe if we did, you know, this, then it would all kind of kick off. And more, how can I spend as much time as possible playing and creating music?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean, obviously, like every artist, you know, I guess the initial dream is just to be able to spend all your time creating, not have a day job, to be able to somehow support yourself, to be able to do it every day. And yeah, to do that, you need resources and help. But yeah, record companies, and a lot of, like, they used to have a lot of money that they would advance you to do things like making expensive video clips or going on the road and all that kind of stuff. But it's all, you have to pay it back. It's an interest-free loan at the end of the day. But nowadays they don't even have the budgets that they used to have, so they can't even really offer you that anymore. They still have their sort of networks or whatever, which are important, but there are lots of, you know, small boutique labels that can tap into those same networks or whatever. But yeah, I mean, the question was, how do you get signed? And I hope I've somewhat answered that question. I guess I'm just trying to steer the conversation as well to, you know, the why as well, and like, what can a record company do for you, not what, and the other way around.
Anyone else? Yep, up the back here.
Considering like,
thank you.
hey, how you doing?
Because got to tell you, 30 years of rock and roll has made me deaf as a post. And without that microphone, I would have had no chance.
Well, considering like labels are essentially banks that loan you money and provide you with teams to administer your business as an artist. First question was going to be, what do you think the viability of actually paying back that loan through what they can generate in this day and age, business for you as an artist? I feel like you kind of answered it at the end there. And then secondly, because I come from quite a DIY background, so I'm always wanting to know this, what are the alternatives of funding? Because that's what labels are for, is to fund you, to help provide you with teams. What are the alternatives to that? Is it possible and viable to pay it back? Is it possible to create your own teams? And what alternative forms of funding are there, especially in Australia, to help you do that?
Yeah, well, there's definitely, I think one of the kind of newer models that seems to be gaining more and more popularity, more and more people are doing. It's definitely the model that the last record that I did with Jebediah we did was creating your own team. Yeah, whereas there's a whole bunch of people out there, like specialists in their fields, whether it's like marketing or radio plugging, or all the different kind of roles that exist within a record company. And a lot of people that used to work at record companies are now going out on their own, and you can find those people, and they can just work on a 6-month contract, or whatever, and just for the promotion of, or whatever you need them for. It might be a tour, might be a record, music, whatever. And yeah, that's definitely become, I'm seeing that all the time now, taking the place of a traditional kind of record company. It seems to be a much, it seems to be a good way to do it, because you're getting a very specialised sort of boutique experience in a way. Record companies, especially the big ones, you just can get lost within them. Not necessarily get the attention that you require. In terms of funding, I mean, there are. Look, not really in a position of too much knowledge here. I mean, I do know that there are a lot of funding opportunity, like government or council programs for that you can apply for funding for whether it's going on tour. I mean, we got funding, actually. Jeb and I got funding to go to New York 2 years ago. We were offered a gig in New York and applied for funding and got some to help make that happen. But yeah, I'm sorry. Unfortunately,
Was that through like Arts Australia or something like that?
Yeah, there's a bunch of them. But yeah, I mean, I'm not. It's not something that I personally haven't written. Personally, filled out the forms, which I hear is a lot of hard work.
AI.
But yes, there are funding bodies out there that you can apply for money from. But yeah, you'd have to do some digging.
Kev, thanks so much for being my guest here in conversation.
Thank you.
And everyone, thank you for being here and enjoy the rest of your day.
Cheers.